This is Prince's Park in Eastbourne, and the body of water in the park is the Crumbles Pond. This whole area was known as the Crumbles, and the park was known as Gilbert's Recreation Ground in 1922 when it was sold to the local authority for £2,200. In June 1931, the Duke of Windsor, who was also known as the Prince of Wales, visited the park and planted this evergreen oak tree. Shortly afterwards, the park was renamed Prince's Park in his honour. Interestingly, Wallace Avenue is only a few hundred metres from here, just off Prince's Road. Being tidal, the lake, as it is now generally known, is fed by a watercourse known as the Crumbles Sewer, and that originates in the surrounding South Downs. Sluice gates at each end of the lake stop the water from draining out to sea at low tide, and due to the tidal aspect, the lake consists of a mixture of fresh and salt water. By 1925, the lake had been laid out as you see it now, reinforced with concrete and with two parallel ends. These straight ends made the lake ideal for sailing model boats. At the time, yachts were either free sailing and left to their own device, or they were steered to some extent by either a weighted swinging rudder or by a steering vane at the stern, as seen here. Of course, this was before the now popular radio controls were available to manoeuvre the vessels. Today, the lake is used by clubs and organisations not only to race model yachts and powerboats, but also sailing, windsurfing and kayaking skills are taught to all ages. The Eastbourne and District Model Yacht Club was formed in 1927, shortly after the lake had been constructed, and even today their members enjoy their hobby of yacht racing twice a week. This club therefore has regularly used and benefited from the lake for the longest period of time. They held their first regatta in 1931 and still occasionally host events. In early April they held their first event of 2016, and that was the Model Yachting Association Metropolitan and Southern District International 1 metre class ranking races 1 and 2. Contestants from as far afield as Fleetwood in Lancashire arrived early with their equipment to set up and tune up, and some arrived not so early. But they all needed to prepare and test their boats and equipment prior to racing. The Commodore of the club is responsible for the overall event and for ensuring that the course is set correctly, and as the wind direction for the next 2 days is unpredictable according to weather forecasts, he'll probably be kept very busy. Here outside the boathouse, the 51 entrants that have applied for this event check in. They're put into one of the 3 heats, which means that up to 17 boats, or even more later in the event, could be in the water racing against each other at any one time. Sustenance is on hand inside the boathouse, and outside there's also a refreshment tent. Even at this early stage in the proceedings, there's a subtle change in the wind, so a corresponding course change is required.
Ladies and gentlemen, briefing in approximately 2 minutes.
The skippers are the operators or controllers of the boats, and they have a briefing shortly. But there's still time for last-minute adjustments, and even a bite to eat. So let's listen to the skipper's briefing.
Skipper's briefing. Morning everybody, welcome to Eastbourne for ranking race 1. You've all brought the weather with you it seems, so thank you very much for that. The forecast for today is for something in the south. It might back round to the east a little bit later on, so maybe we'll have to do some course changing. If that is the case, naturally there'll be the appropriate postponements. Any sound signals we will make to announce any changes will be preceded by a whistle blast. Okay. The course board is here, this little red one. We'll try and elevate it, we'll get it up so you can all see it a little better. If you want to cast your eyes to the lake, I will give you a quick outline of the course and the marks and relative to where they're sitting. We have start marks, which are yellow and black. We then have our red and white marks. At the windward end there we have number 1, number 2 and number 3. The reason for setting 3 of them is so that we can mix and match if we're hampered by wind shifts, okay? At the bottom end we have a gate with marks 4 and 5. And then set off to the right hand side here, to the starboard side of what would be the weather leg, you've got the finish line between the 2 red and black marks. Okay? Toilets. We've had a few problems with the local council. They decided to decommission our long-serving toilet block on the far side of the lake next to the pavilion, which is currently undergoing renovation. Unfortunately, the contractors threw a cordon round it. Council saw that as an opportunity to rip out all the installations. So it left us in a bit of a difficult position. Eastbourne United Football Club have helped us out hugely, and they are making available their bar and their toilet facilities. They are open from 10 o'clock. There will be a block membership facility open to everybody at the end of today's racing. It'll probably be a very modest fee of £1 to become a temporary member, and it will be club bar prices. So, as a...
Okay, here we go.
Go for it.
2 minutes to the start.
So here we go with the first race. But not everyone's ready.
Yes, you're well and truly stuck on.
Blow off, shouldn't it?
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All clear!
But now they're off to a good start, and they make their way to the first gate, which is a red and white marker. This international 1 metre class of boat has developed into one of the most popular radio control classes since it was introduced in the 1980s. And there are currently some 1,000 boats registered nationwide in this class alone. By the time the last yacht is around the marker, the leaders are nearing markers 4 and 5. And the controls on these craft appear to be very responsive. Racing rules for these yachts correspond generally to that of larger manned boats, so there's full scope to exhibit the skills of good seamanship. And there's the first winner.
46, 95.
This looks complicated,
Good.
so on to the next race. But just before the next race, we'll look at the specifications for the boats. The length of this particular class of boat is of course 1 metre, and if you're not sure what class it is, this number 1 logo is on the top of the mainsail. But there's no restriction on the beam or the width of the vessel. The draft length or depth in the water is between 0.37 and 0.42 of a metre, and the boat must weigh a minimum of 4 kilograms with a maximum ballast weight of 2.5 kilograms.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That was a false start. The boats are made from either wood or glass fibre, but carbon fibre is allowed in the construction of the fin and rudder.
2, 1.
Another false start.
Final minute start. 60.
The rules state that the sails are to be made of polyester fabric and of a specified thickness, and the sail configuration on these boats is known as Bermuda rigged.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Abandoned.
So 3 false starts and this race has been abandoned. Day 2, and the wind is in the complete opposite direction to yesterday, and so the course is set out accordingly.
3, 2, 1.
All clear.
The boats are manoeuvred by radio control, and these radio transmitters are used to steer the craft. The left stick moves up and down to control the mainsail and jib, and the right stick moves left and right to control the rudder. Another wind change and another trip to move the markers.
Five is not off mark of the course for this second time down.
Right. So
Okay.
2 is the windward.
Two,
You've
counting
changed
from the
windward.
right. 1, 2, 3. We've changed the windward mark to 2.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
And yet again, the wind has changed.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All clear.
There's a lot of competitiveness in this sport, but it all seems that all is forgiven over a pint or two at the end of the day. But the rules and regulations are there to be obeyed.
Protest 26. Come on, 87. Protest 87.
Collision. 5 in the yellow boat.
Whoops! It's not only the boats that bump into each other.
Don't go in there, 136. Go away.
6-2. And contact 6-2 and 0.
Number 1.
So let's see where some of these contestants come from and how they're doing in the ranking.
Yeah, I know. In England at the moment, I rank about 19. So, but there's world champions here, national champions, European champions, you know, and I need to sort of up my game and get up with them. But it's a good competition.
Thank you. Excuse me, but can you tell me how the event's gone for you so far?
Oh, it's great fun. The park is a challenging park. Wind comes from awkward directions over the trees, over the houses. But as usual, the good guys do well, and people like me, not so much.
And how far have you travelled to get here this weekend?
I come from Southampton today and travel quite often. I like going to the away games, main because the other top skippers are there, and it's nice to compete against them and try and learn how to do it.
Thank you very much.
All clear.
Yes. First one ever.
Well done. Well done. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's
Took
super.
2.5 years.
Yeah, and it was some mean fleet, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Can you tell me how far you've come for this event today?
Yeah, so I'm Josh King, I'm from Oxford, and we've come down to Eastbourne to sail the ranking race. I came second yesterday, and today's been going quite well, but it's a very stiff fleet. There's some world and European champions and ex-champions here, so I know it's going well.
Thank you. Congratulations on that win. Did you think you might do well in that race?
Yes, I was in with a good chance because I shouldn't be in that fleet. I've had a set-up issues today, so I should be in a lot higher fleet than what I've been. So we've sorted the problems out, and we should be moving out the next fleet back into A fleet.
Thank you very much. Judging by your accent, you're not from round these parts.
Well, I'm
I am an Australian, but I'm based in the UK and have been for near on 10 years now. So I'm a GBR resident and I race for GBR. My status in the sport, I'm current world champion with the international 1 metre class, and we're down here for a weekend with national ranking races. So it's been great fun. The breeze has been a bit tricky, but it's the same for everybody. So we all have a bit of fun, have a pint afterwards. So it can't be that bad.
Thank you.
Oh, is he? Oh.
We'll see if we can grab a word with the Commodore, Jeremy Collier, in his very busy schedule. So, Jez, what problems has the event thrown at you this weekend?
Well, today we've had some very trying weather conditions. Originally we started off with a southerly airstream, which has steadily backed through to what we now have, which is east-northeast. It's difficult to understand, but at 10 o'clock this morning the boats were pointing that way when they started, and by 3 o'clock this afternoon they're pointing that way. I spent a lot of time in the dinghy resetting the course, but it's a requirement under the rules, because if there isn't a fair course set with a beat to the first mark, then the race can be protested by a competitor who feels that they've been prejudiced in some way. So quite trying, quite difficult, and I'm looking forward to my next cup of tea. Thank you.
Thank you. From 1907, when the council first leased the land from Mr. Carew Gilbert Davis at an annual rent of £5, to the purchase of the land in 1922, and on to the present day, the park and the lake have been there for the recreational use of the public. Recently, the local authority for the area, Eastbourne Borough Council, have drawn up a 2011 to 2021 management plan for the 13-hectare Prince's Park. Already some of the land has been sold for housing, but after a century of the facility of an uninhibited, unrestricted area for recreational pursuits, will the need for accommodation triumph over recreation? And will the benefits that the park has to offer the community continue for a further 100 years?